Music theory with OneNote. Intervals over an octave. Best method for the scale degree system. Noting here that, of course, the scale degree system itself is not the best system, although it is the most used system. So we're talking here about the best method of the worst but most used scale degree system. We will, in a future presentation, get to the best method for the best but least used modal distance system, but we got to lay the foundation here. So get ready and some coffee, because although we're only playing one note, it's a beautiful note. You're not required to, but if you have access to it and would like to follow along, we're currently in the OneNote file of Modal Node System MNS Presentation 1243 OneNote Intervals over an octave, best method for scale degree system. List of presentations, which we plan on adding plenty more to shortly. Also noting, within this OneNote presentation, we could spend all of our time on the music theory side of things, but we also have another presentation by a similar number and name where we work out these tables in Excel, practicing our Excel skills, our music skills, and simply table visualization all at the same time. We're going to continue working with our intervals, which is our distance notation. This time thinking, what happens if I go past an octave, which is a dimension we haven't really been taking into account because we've been visualizing distance as though we're taking laps around a track or going around a block. But we now want to add the dimension of the like a note number line system. Before we do that, we want to remember not to get ourselves confused, not to get ourselves off track of the goal being to be able to maneuver around the fretboard as seamlessly as possibly, or whatever your instrument is. It'll work for that as well. And to do that, we need to properly visualize the fretboard, which would be the map of the territory. It's like the globe. It has 7 continents on it, and then it has 5 oceans that are going to be the pass-through areas that go through to get to the destination continent locations. Our head is above the fretboard in space, above this low or heavy E string, the one closest to the ceiling. We're looking down on the fretboard from space, and we notice that it can be like rotating around, like the planet rotates around. We're going to assign 12 degrees of rotation, typically working in the 4th degree of rotation, which is going to give us the 7 notes, the collection of notes related to the C major. Once I've identified that, I then want to name the continent not by the notes, but by the continent names, which, if you know the Nashville number system, would be the Nashville number system, which is basically just a way to name the nodes with a number. Meaning the Ionian is a 1, the Phrygian is a 4, the Phrygian is a 3, the Lydian is a 4, the Aeolian is a 6, the Dorian is a 2, the Mixolydian is a 5, and so on and so forth. That's how we want to visualize it. However, the terminology that we use will often pull us out of that optimal visualization because of the scale degrees. Now, also remember, we're always working in the collection of notes related to the key of C, but that shouldn't throw you off. It's like, oh, you're just memorizing one in one scale, man. It's like, okay, look, if you moved, that's the point. If you moved to C sharp to D sharp, the whole thing shifts up. We're looking at intervals. All the intervals are related. So that means that the whole system will apply. That doesn't mean you can go to the guitar and play in every different position, because your fingers aren't going to be able to memorize it. You won't be able to visualize it until you practice it, but you can't visualize it on the fretboard unless you actually can map it out and see what you're trying to visualize. And this is the best way to do that. All right. So if we have our map over here, we're trying to measure distance now. If we had a normal map, note, again, you can go around the middle. I can go to North America to Asia this way, or I can go around this way to get there. But in our analogy here, we can take one of these strings in essence and think of it as a number line going up and back, or we can bend the string in a circle and imagine it's in a circle, in which case we have a racetrack, where we could go forward and backwards. Now, we've been looking at the concept of a racetrack, which is what our normal interval concepts are based on. So in other words, if I start, let's on the 6 this time, and I go forward to the 2, it would be 1, 2, 3, what I would call modal half steps forward, or 3 continents forward, which if I make it a scale degree, making that the 1, which I don't want to do, but we're going to do it, 1, 2, 3, 4, it would be the fourth scale degree. Okay, and then if I add the oceans, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 up, that would be similar to the notes going up. Now, if we imagine it as a racetrack, we can also go backwards. So I can go from here, -1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's where we were going, -4 modal half steps or -4 continents, or we can make it a scale degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -5 scale degrees back. We talked last time that going backwards, you don't usually have scale degrees, so that's one problem that we addressed. The problem we want to address now is different. That being, what if I go around the circle in a whole circle and then back to here? So the distance would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I've gone all the way around and then back to here again. So you might say, well, why would I even, all I have to do is break it down to just 1, 2, 3, a 3-note distance away. I don't need to say it's a 10-note distance away, do I? And the answer is, well, there is repetition, so the flavor of the note will basically be the same as though we're going around in a circle. But we're also going an octave up. So to get more detail, we would like to take both of those dimensions into account. So when we visualize our number line, there's two ways we can do it, you will recall. One is we can imagine the numbers going up infinitely and then going back infinitely, like a note number line. But we also recognize that there's repetition after we go through the 12 notes. So there's similarity in the pitches. So we get to another A, but the A is going to be an octave up. We can also visualize it as a circle, as we have been doing. If we just think about the pitches and not think about the octaves that are going to be involved, just the notes that are involved and not about the octaves. In reality, we should be visualizing something that's a spiral. It's spiraling, it has directionality up and down, but it also has repetition going around in a circle. Us human beings are not able to really visualize a spiral shape. So we have to kind of pick one. Do we want to visualize this thing as a circle, or do we want to visualize it as a number line and think about what the objective is and which of those visualizations would be most suited to that objective? So this time I want to think about the idea that we're going past an octave. So it's still going to have this circle rotation because I'd like to keep the flavor that would be within one octave. That's the thing that tells me the flavor typically for most people. But I also want to give an indication that I'm going over an octave, which is not something we often do on the guitar because the guitar is typically learned by shape. So many people don't even know the distances. They could be great guitar players and not even know the distances between the notes really because they've learned them by shape. But we'd really like to know the distance so that we can be more specific. So in other words, if I went from this Ionian to this Mixolydian, then I'm going to give it the same interval name as that would be 5 notes away, 6, 7, a 7-note away, perfect fifth. Guitarists will memorize this shape as a perfect fifth because it's basically a power chord. And when we get more advanced, we'll say, hey, look, this is a Mixolydian or a G as well. And when I relate that to the C, that must also be a perfect fifth, which is correct, but it's not really a 7-note away perfect fifth. It's an octave higher. I'd like to be able to count it out and actually be able to identify that somehow. So we could do that by counting. There's 5 notes between each string. This would be 5, 6, 7. So I'd like to call this a 7-note away perfect fifth. And this one down here would be 5, 10, 15. And then there's a fault line right here. I call it the fault line. This tectonic plate shifts to the right. This is what I visualize. So 5, 10, 15, 20 going out this way. And then back to 19. So it's actually 19 notes away, which makes sense because an octave would be 12 notes. So 19 minus 12 would be 9 minus 2, which would be 7 notes away. So in a sense, it's still kind of 7 notes away if you boil it down to within the same octave. But I'd like to be more specific and say, well, this one is a 7-note away perfect fifth, and this one is a 7-note away plus an octave, or 7-note away plus 12, or a 19-note away perfect fifth. That still gives me the flavor that it's a perfect fifth because that's going to be the thing that tells me, again, like the flavor of it, but it also allows me to distinguish one from the other if I add the concept of the note length by saying 7 plus 12, or by saying 7 plus an octave, or by saying the actual distance, which is 19. Now note there's another method that you can do that you will see in textbooks a lot of the time, but particularly in the guitar, no one really talks that way as far as I can see. As I've scoured the YouTubes and whatnot, nobody really uses like a perfect tenth, for example, would be the idea. But you can think about the scale degree going around in a circle as well. So notice what I'm doing here with the octaves. I'm saying I'm going to list the octaves as though we're visualizing it as more of a number line system. So I'm going past 12 notes in the number line. I'm not going to continue going around in a lap. I'm visualizing it as I'm going up infinitely on the number line. But with regards to the scale degree term, I'm imagining that we're going around in a circle. I'm not going up infinitely in a number line. And I think that's the best of both worlds, because again, that allows you to differentiate one from the other, and it also gives you the flavor of the note. But you can imagine just the scale degree going around, because a lot of times in the books, textbooks, they drop the most important thing, which is the distance. So if you don't say it's 7 notes away, or you don't say it's 19 or 7 plus 12, then the only option you have to differentiate something that's in the same octave or up an octave is by continuing to go up like a number line system from the distance term. So let's start from the 1 this time and say we go to the 3. So I could say the distance would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 if I was to go around the circle and keep on counting instead of starting over and just saying that's going to be 1, 2 notes away. But if I make this the 1 and think about scale degrees, this would be 1, 2, 3. That's the third. But if I go around the whole circle, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I could name that a 10th scale degree. And then I'd have to determine, is it a major 10th or a minor 10th, and so on and so forth. So most people playing the guitar you're not going to hear like a major 10 a lot of time, most of the time, because most of the time on the guitar, they're going to drop the notes completely, and we're going to call like this distance a perfect fifth and this distance a perfect fifth. What I would recommend to get more specific is the mixed reference. Even though this is what's used in a textbook, a perfect tenth, I would recommend in practice trying to get better than not saying the notes at all. But the easiest way to communicate would have the notes going up past the octave, and then keep the interval name the same. All right, so let me show you what I mean this way. We have our notes over here. There's the notes in the musical alphabet. We applied the formula to it, so we went from C, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. We pulled out the 7 notes that we're going to be working in, collection of notes related to the key of C, and then we talked about our distances. If I was just measuring from the Ionian, or this Ionian, let's say, and there's 12 notes, we have 11 different distances that are within the same lap if we're going around the block just one time. We have 11 different distances we can name, and we're naming them based on the major scale. So we have 7 of those 12 locations going around the block that we can actually stop on, destination locations, as opposed to going through the ocean. But what happens if I go around the block twice, or if I think about it as a number line that goes infinitely upwards? We'll talk about going infinitely backwards in a future presentation, but right now we're going infinitely upwards or clockwise around the block. Well, when I get to 12, when I go to step number 12, I could reset like we're going around a clock face. So I could bring this back and just call it a 0 note away perfect first, and just kind of ignore the fact that I've taken a lap around the block. I'm just looking at it as a clock face where I am on the clock. But again, there is actual distance as well. So the other way I can do it is I can say, well, now I'm 12 steps away, which brings me back to where I started from a note distance, but also it's an octave higher. and then I'm going to keep it as a perfect because that's our normal convention. And then I could have it as a first, or I could call it a perfect eighth, right? Because the next step up this way, if I go around the block, would be an eighth. Now again, the eighth is something that I think most people will kind of recognize to some degree, because when we say a normal scale, we go 1 through 8. But when we get to the next one, if I go 13 and I say it's going to be a minor 9, then a lot of people aren't going to really get that, particularly on the guitar. So I would think the normal convention would be keep the second term as though you're in the same octave. That gives you the flavor. That's the thing that's going to tell you, oh, it's a third, it's a third-y feel, it's the minor-y feel, it's a major third, it's a major-y feel, it's a perfect, it's a solid type of feel. But you also get then, if you add the notes and the actual distance, then you're going to get differences between the octaves, right? That's, I think, the best, most practical, functional way to say it. But remember, a textbook, as we'll see in a future presentation, I'll show you how to map it out. A textbook will drop the notes, and they'll continue to call this a perfect eighth and then a minor 9, which are, that makes sense if you drop the notes, which are the most important thing, but it's not something that I think is going to be most conducive to communication in practice, particularly in a band kind of setting that I've seen, particularly. And again, now that there's YouTube out there, to do your search it on ChatGPT and ask it how many people are using the term of like a major tenth versus some other term, right? Anyway, so particularly on the guitar. So if I went up 13, I would like to say that's 13 notes away, but I'm still going to keep the flavor of a minor second. So we can still, we could also call it 13 minus 12 would give us a 1. So it's going to be like a 1 note away, minor second, but now it's going to be 1 plus 12, or 1 plus an octave note away, minor second. So then if we have 14 notes away, what would that be? Well, if I went on my fretboard and I simply counted 14 notes between, I went 14 notes up, then how would I figure out what I'm playing? I would subtract 12. 14 minus 12 is going to be like 4 minus 2, which would be 2 notes away. So a 2 note away would be then a major second. So we're talking about a 2 note away plus an octave, or 2 note away plus 7 major second is the way I would like to be able to say that. What if it was 15 notes away? So let's count one out here, and just to check it out, if I was going 15 notes away from this G, there'd be 5 notes between the string here. So that's 5, 10, and then 15 would land me in the Aeolian Ocean. 5, 10, 15. All right, and so what would we call that? Now notice, what would we call that? Well, I'd say the distance would be 15 minus 12 would be 12, 13, 14, 15, or 3. So it would be a third, 3 distance if it was local, which would be a minor third. So it's going to be a 3 note away plus 12, or a 3 note away plus octave, or a 15 note away minor third. So because I started from a Mixolydian, of course, it's not in the key because it has a major third. But if I started on the Aeolian and I went down 15, 5, 10, 15, we land on a 15 note away minor third. All right, let's do the next one. Let's see if I can play with my fretboard more instead of just being abstract over here. So let's see, let's say we go 16 note away. So if it was 16 note away, how would I figure that out? Well, if I was counting it out from here, it'd be like 5, 10, 15, 16. So this one would, from an XN modal range, has a distance going forward or clockwise, in this case, of 16 notes away, going around the circle, and we're going 16 notes away. So the local distance would be 16 minus 12, or 6 minus 2, 6, 5, 4. So it would be a 4 note away, which I have to know is a major third under this system, right? I'd know that's a major third, and therefore this is a 4 note plus an octave, or 4 note plus 12, or 16 note away major third. All right, so let's say, let's do the next one and say, well, what if I go 17 notes away? So if I count it out and I see it's 17, 5, 10, 15, 16, 17. So that would be up here. It's 17 notes away. How far is that from a local distance? 17 minus 12 is 7 minus 2, 7, 6, 5. So it would be a 5 note away, which would be a perfect fourth. So now we're going to say this should be then a 5 plus an octave, or 5 plus 12, or 17 note away perfect fourth would be the distance, how you might practically kind of use that. All right, what about the next one? If we go 18 away, what would we call that? So if I'm starting here, I go 18, 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, lands me in the Ionian Ocean. It's an XI plus modal range, or a 1.5 modal range, right? So, okay, what's the local distance? Well, 18 minus 12 is like 8 minus 2, 8, 7, 6. So it would be a 6 note away, which we know is the weird one, which is a diminished fifth or an augmented fourth. All right, so that means it's going to be a 6 note away plus an octave, or a 6 plus 12, or a 16 note away diminished fifth or augmented fourth. Now, if I count it up from the Locrian, then I should land on a continent, because that interval should be on a continent, right? So because the Locrian has that crazy flat 5 in it. So it'd be 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18. So the NY modal range has an 18 note away diminished fifth, and it also has, of course, a 6 note away diminished fifth, which would be 5, 6 right there, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do the next one. And all right, and so now we're going to say this one's going to be a 19 note away a distance. So let's say we go 19 away. So that's going to be 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So that's going to be an XD modal range if we're measuring it from the Mixolydian. 19 minus 12 would get us to 9 minus 2, 9, 8, 7. That would be a 7 note away perfect fifth. Okay, so that means that it's going to be a 7 plus an octave, or 7 plus 12, or 19 note away perfect fifth. Okay, so that makes sense. In 19 note away perfect fifth. Now, if the perfect fifth, if it was 7 notes away, would be 5, 6, 7. So here's the local perfect fifth. Here's the octave up perfect fifth. And you could start to see octave shapes, right? Here to here is an octave shape, all right? So we're going to see how nice the fretboard is to have it with the top string on top, like you looking at it over the top of the guitar, like a normal person would do it if anyway, it's going to be, let's say we go 20 notes up. So it's going to be 5, 10, 15, and the fault line, this tectonic plate down here, these last two strings shifted up in an earthquake. That's my analogy. So it's got to go 5, 10, 15, and then 20 up here. So it lands you on the Dorian Ocean. So we're in the Dorian Ocean. So 20 minus 12 is going to be like 10 minus 2, which would be 8. So that's going to be an 8 note away, which would normally be a minor 6. So this would be an 8 plus an octave, or an 8 plus 12 minor 6, right? And I could say if it was up here, it'd be 5, 6, 7, 8. There it is in the Dorian Ocean up top. A minor 6 should land us on a continent if we start from like an Aeolian. So if I started from the Aeolian, I went 5, 10, 15, and then up here, because of the kink in the tuning or the fault line, we get to here, we land on an AY modal range. And if I go local distance, 5, 6, 7, 8, we land here. So this would be the 8 note away, minor 6, and this would be an 8 plus an octave, or 8 plus 12, or 20 note away, minor 6. All right, so let's go ahead and see if I can do the next one. Wait, I need to erase this too. Okay, so now we're on 21 away. So 21 away. We're going long distance here. So it's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20, 1. All right, 21 away. So that would be 21 local distance minus 12 would be like 11 minus 2, which would be 9, right? So it'd be a 9 note away major 6, 9 note away major 6. So there we have it. Local distance would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here, this would be an octave up, but I'm still going to call it, so this would be a 9 note away major 6, and this would be a 9 plus 12, or 9 plus octave, or 21 note away major 6. See, that gives me the flavor. It's still a major 6. It's going to sound major 6-y, but it's different as well. Let's keep that one there so if I mess up on the math. Aren't you an accountant? Yeah, I might mess up the math. Okay. So it's a 22 note away. So it's going to be 5, 10, 15, and then 20 out here, 21, 22. So it's an XY modal range, and it's 22. So 22 local distance, 22 minus 12 would be like it would be 10 minus 22 minus 12 would be 12 minus 2, which would be 10. I thought it was going to be the 9. See, now that messed me up. It was supposed to help me, and it messed me up. It's going to be 10. So it's a 10 note away major 7. Okay, 10 note away major 7. So that makes sense. So a 10 note away would be 5, 10. Right there would be the local distance, and this would be and this distance then would be 10 plus an octave, or 10 plus 12, or a 22 note away minor 7. Hopefully I've been saying minor 7 and not major 7. It's a minor 7, 10 note away. Okay, let's do the next one. So then we're going to go, what if we went 23 up? So 23 up would be like 5, 10, 15, 20, 21, 22, 23, lands me in the Lydian Ocean, within the Lydian Ocean. So local distance would be 23 minus 12, which would be like saying 3 minus 2, 23 minus 12 would be 11. 23 minus 12 is going to be 11, and so we're going to say, because it's like 13 minus 2 is what I would normally think. Anyway, so if I go and I'm used to Excel, okay? I'm used to Excel and calculators. So I'm trying to work on my mental math. You need mental math for music. It's helping me. Okay, so we're going to go 11 notes away. So we go 5, 10, 11. That would be the local distance. And then this distance then would be 11 plus 12, or 11 plus octave, or 23 note away major 7. All right. Now we could go more than one octave up. On the guitar, we can't go, we're usually going to be kind of within 2 octaves, but we could conceivably go higher than that, and in theory we can keep on going, right? So what if I went 24 up from the G? It'd be 5, 10, 15, and then 20, and then 24. Wait a sec, did I do that right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 22, 3 to 4, right there, 24. That's going to be an octave up. So that means that if I stayed on the same octave, I would be here. And then of course, this would be an octave up, would be plus 12, and this would be plus another 12. So this gets a little wonky. So you could use the terminology of saying it's plus 2 octaves or something like that instead of 24, because that might be a little bit easier to see on the math. Let me show you what I mean next on the next one, which is a little more clear. Let's say we go 25 steps up. So 25 steps up from here, 5, 10, 15, 20, and then 25 would be here. Wait, not there, hold on. Would be here, because there's no kink between these two. So it'd be 5, 10, 15, 20, and then 25 notes away lands me in the Mixolydian Ocean. Okay, and that makes sense, because if I say 25 minus 12 plus 12, or minus 24, 25 minus 24, because I'm 2 octaves up, so you could subtract 12 at a time, would get you to the one note away minor. Wait a sec. Yeah, one note away minor second. So that one note away minor second would be right here, right? So that's why it might be easier to say it's going to be one note away is usually one note away plus 2 octaves, right? That might be an easier way to say it, but it's also one note away plus 12, or one note away, or 25 note away minor second. So, and the minor second is not going to be there in the Aeolian as well, even though it's a minor. It's not here, and it's not here, but it is in like the Dorian. I'm sorry, it's in the Phrygian. It is in the Phrygian right here. So that one has right here and then right here. So there it is. Okay, so let's do the next one. See if I can do this again. If we go next one, what if I went up 26 steps from here? So we're going to go 5, 10, 15, and then 20, 25, 26. So it's going to be an XA modal range. I'm going to call it an XA plus 2 octaves, or an XA and 2 octaves. We'll talk about that later because it's got the modal range, but an added 2 octaves between it. But how would we get that? We'd have to say 26. I can see it's above 24. I mean, I could see basically it's going to be above an octave. So I would think that you'd have to say 26, minus 24 to get you within the range, right? Because it's above 24. So that would be 26 minus 24, which would be similar to saying 6 minus 4, 6, 5, 4, would be the 2 note away. So it'd be hold on, let me do this. It'd be a 2 note away major second, 2 note away major second. So 2 note away major second would be going to here. If I go out to here, that would be like a 2 plus 2 octave note away major second, or a 2 plus 24 note away major second, or a 26 note away major second. So that would be the idea. Let's do this. Let's do the next one. And so now we're going to say it's a 27 note away. So if I go 27 notes away, be 5, 10, 15, 20, and then 25, 26, 27 lands me in the Aeolian Ocean. All right, so 27 notes away. So I'd have to say, okay, it's above 24. So I'd say 27 minus 24 is like 7 minus 4, which would be 3. So 3 notes away is a minor third. So I'd have to say, okay, this is going to be like a minor third would normally be 3 notes away, which would be 1, 2, 3 here, landing me in the Aeolian Ocean. But this one is going to be 3 plus 2 octave notes away, or 3 plus 12 notes away, or 3 plus 24 notes away, otherwise known as 27 note away. And this is a minor third. So I keep saying major. It's a minor third. And then also if I start from this A, then you can see if I go 3 notes away, I land on a continent because it's a minor third, and A is the Aeolian, which is a minor mode. If I go down, and if I went down this way, I'd land on a continent. Okay, so let's do the next one. And so I think I'm finally getting into a bit of a rhythm here as we close this thing out. If we go 28 steps up. So we're going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28. It would be an XN modal range, or I would call it an XN plus 2 octaves, or an XN and 24 distance-wise. And so for modal range. And so how would I get there? Well, I'm going to say, well, that's going to be like 28 minus 24, because it's higher than 24, would be like 8 minus 4, which would be 4. And a 4 note away, which would be a major third. So a major third would normally be 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. This is going to also be a major third, but it's going to be a 4 note away plus 2 octaves, or a 4 note away plus 12, or a 4 note away plus 24 major third away. Okay, so then we'll do the next one. Oh, wait. You just drew a line That's okay. I can erase it. I can erase it. Let's go. We're going to go 29 notes away. So now we're going to go, all right, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So 29 notes away. So if I went 29 notes away, the local distance would be 29. That's greater than 24. So 29 minus 24 would be like 9 minus 4. 9 minus 4 is 5. So it would be a 5 note away perfect fourth typically. So it'd be a 5 note away perfect fourth. The local distance would be 5 notes away would be here. So that would be a 5 note away perfect fourth. This would be a 5 note away plus 2 octaves, or 5 note away plus 12 plus 12, or 5 note away plus 20, or a 29 note away perfect fourth. Okay, so then let's do the next one. And let's say we go 30 away. So that's going to be the 30 away would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Let's kind of stop after this one. This is about as far as we go. We don't really go any octaves above that normally because again, you'd have to go way up on the fretboard. So let's check it out. We're going to say 30 notes away. So we would say then 30 minus 24, because it's higher than 24, would be like 10 minus 4, which would be 6. So we're going to say it would be a 6 note away, which is the weird one, which is a diminished fifth or an augmented fourth. And so this one lands us in the ocean. So we're going to say the local distance would be a 6 note away, which would be 5, 6, landing me here in the Ionian Ocean. So this one out here then would be a 6 plus 12 plus 12, or 6 plus 2 octaves, or a 30 note away diminished fifth. Now, of course, that diminished fifth, if we started from the Locrian, we might have it, but I'm going to go over too far to get it from here. So anyways, we'll stop it on that weird one. But obviously, we could continue this process down. If you're on the piano, then you're going to have more distance than on a guitar typically. But in theory, we could continue this more octaves up infinitely, right? Just like a note number line can go infinitely up or down, but it also repeats, as we can see as well. So you can envision it as a track that goes around in a circle, but it also goes up infinitely. And in theory, both ideas can be expressed both ways, both measurement tools. In other words, we're measuring by, in essence, modal half steps or scale degrees. Those could go around the track in a circle, which is what I'm proposing to do, even if you're going up higher, because that gives you the flavor that most people are familiar with. But it could also go up infinitely by just increasing the scale degrees, which you might see in some textbooks, because that's the only way to indicate that you're going an octave up if you drop the notes. And then the notes could also, you can imagine them just going around in a circle, which most people possibly do in practice, but I think it would be more specific to indicate both of these things by showing the notes as the thing that don't go around in a circle, but you're going to express in some way the actual distance like a note number line by saying it's the local distance plus an octave or 2 octaves, or it's the local distance plus 12 plus another 12 if it's another octave up, or it's the total distance number, and then give the local scale degree. Okay, so next time we'll do the same idea, but we'll add then more concepts on the modal ranges and see the same concept as we think about a modal distance terminology.